Well, we welcome you to our class on reading food labels, how to read food labels. You'd think we would know this stuff, right? It's right on the food label. I mean, it's on the food we eat, and we should be able to just look at it and read it. And it's not quite that easy. So, we're going to try to understand these four things tonight. This is our objective. Number one is understand the claims on the front of the package, what it says there. Number two is understand how to read the ingredient list. And then number three, how to read the nutrition facts panel. And then we'll have 3 rules that we will give you to help you follow, to make good decisions on what to buy and what to eat and so on. Okay, so we'll start with this one. Here's the front of a package. What do you see on that? What is that package telling us?
Fat-free.
Fat-free. Is it? Do you believe it is? You would think so, right? Let's look on the back of the package. There's the nutrition facts. What does it say? It says there's 0.43 grams of fat. There's only 1 tablespoon here we're talking about 0.43 grams of fat and 4 calories from fat. That's on fat-free dressing. How can they do that? Actually, the number of calories that's about 1/3 of the calories that are in a tablespoon of that dressing. Yet it's fat-free. That's what the label says. Let's do another one. Let's look at some good wholesome cereal, right? So as you look at that total cereal, what does that tell you? What do you think?
100% nutrition.
100% nutrition. What does that mean?
It's all nutritious.
It's all nutritious, okay. What else do we see on there that sounds good?
Blueberry and pomegranates.
It's got blueberry and pomegranates in it, is that what you would think?
Mm-hmm.
Anything else?
Whole grain.
And it's whole grain. Okay, so those are the 3 things that I picked out on there. So we have whole grain, 100% nutrition, and the blueberry pomegranate. Okay, let's go to the back of the box. Let's see what's on the back. This is all the information. Let's start with the ingredients. So we talk about 100% whole grain is what we're assuming it is. So as we look at this, the first ingredient is whole grain oats. The second ingredient is whole grain wheat. Then we have several things in there till we get down to wheat flakes. The third grain is wheat flakes. Is that 100% whole? No, it's not. Or they would say it is. If they can advertise it as a whole grain, they will say it that way. So the wheat flakes is not. We skip one. Here we have rice flour. Is that whole? No. And then we go down to oat flour. Is that whole? No. And then I think there's one other one. Whole grain rice is the next one right there. So we have 6 grains listed, 3 of them where it says whole grain, the other 3 are not. Okay, but now if you look carefully up there, you can't read it very well. It says whole grain guaranteed, but there's a little teeny word. It says with whole grain. Okay, so the front label says with. Okay, let's look at the 100% nutrition. What do you think that means? Well, let's look at, here's where all the 100%s are listed. Not all of them though. Vitamin A 15%, vitamin D 25%. So what are they getting at? Well, they actually, if you look at what it says, 100% nutrition, what's beside the word nutrition? There's an asterisk there. And if we look at down here, it says 100% of 12 vitamins and minerals. So really not 100% nutrition that we think we might be getting when we look at the box. It's 100% of 12 vitamins and minerals. Well, how many vitamins and minerals are there? Well, we know a lot more than 12. Yeah, and they're not all listed on the box. So let's look at the next one. The blueberry and pomegranates. Do you think there's blueberry and pomegranates in there, or pieces of dried blueberry or anything? That's what you would think.
That's what I would hope for.
That's what would you hope for. And if you look down here, you won't find them. If you look up here, it says naturally and artificial flavored, crispy whole grain flakes and crunchy fruit flavored clusters. They're fruit flavored clusters is what they are. What are they made out of? Well, that's listed down here. It's made out of sugar and so on. Okay? So, there's a rule here. This is our first rule we're going to talk about when it comes to reading food labels. Don't believe what's on the front of the package. Because legally, there's no law. They can put on the front of the package what they want. Now they're attempting to change that, is what I understand. But the front of the package is not regulated. Now the back is, but the front is not. So that's important to know. And when you pick up a package, you look at the front, turn it over, and make sure you know what you're getting. All right, so here's the second thing we wanted to do. So we've talked about the front of the package. Now we want to look at the ingredient list. And maybe you knew this one, but they're listed from largest to smallest amount by what?
By weight.
By weight. Okay, not by volume, not by calories, it's all by weight. So this is measured in grams or milligrams, typically.
So if there is something, one ingredient's heavier than the other, it might be listed first even though there's more of the other.
It
Okay.
could be, yeah,
Hmm,
could be.
I didn't realize that.
So in our marmalade jelly there, we see sugar as the number one ingredient by weight. Oat crisp crackers have whole grain oat flour, number one ingredient by weight. Wheat flour, when it says wheat flour, is that whole wheat flour? No, that's typically enriched white flour. If it's whole wheat, it says whole wheat. All right, so let's go back to our cereal, and I'm just picking on this total one because it's considered kind of a healthy cereal. And as we look at the ingredients, we have the first two, whole grain oats, whole grain wheat. What's the third one? Sugar. What's the fourth one? Which is what?
Sugar.
More sugar. What's the fifth one?
Barley malt extract.
Which is more sugar.
Is
Yeah, they sprout barley and they extract sugar out of it basically. So it's another sugar. What is brown sugar syrup? It's another sugar. We have wheat flakes next, and then we have malt syrup, which is what? It's more sugar. And if we skip down a couple, we get to sucralose. What is sucralose? It's Splenda, artificial sugar. Okay, and if we go to molasses, which is sugar, and one more, honey, another sugar. So, what did that just tell us?
There's a lot of sugar in that cereal.
And there's
they're all near the
actually,
top.
there's 8 forms of sugar in that cereal. Now, sugar isn't the number one ingredient, right? Well, maybe it is. It doesn't say. We don't know. We don't know how much sugar is in all of that. Maybe there's just very little of each of those. But we know if you add all 8 of those up, there's a fair amount of sugar in there. And we could look at some other things up here that would tell us that too. We won't get into that right yet. But it's just good to know. As you look at the back of that package, you look at those ingredients, what you are looking at. And it has to say. So this is good. Now, it does have some other things, we might as well mention those here. There's some preservatives, BHT added to preserve freshness, some red and blue food dyes and so on. You'd ask about MSG, and let's just mention that. The MSG can appear as a food additive in several forms, and here's a list of them in this book Excitotoxins. is really good. Monosodium glutamate is MSG, and then hydrolyzed vegetable protein, or hydrolyzed protein, that they always have MSG in them. It's kind of like if you say you're going to have ketchup. Well, what's in ketchup? Well, ketchup's made of tomatoes and vinegar and sugar and so on. Well, so when they say hydrolyzed vegetable protein, what's it made of? Well, one ingredient is MSG. Hydrolyzed protein, hydrolyzed plant protein extract, sodium caseinate, calcium caseinate, yeast extract, textured protein, autolyzed yeast, hydrolyzed oat flour. Those are all have MSG in them. And then those that sometimes have MSG, not necessarily. Malt extract, malt flavoring, bouillon broth stock flavoring, natural flavoring. That gets kind of frustrating when it says natural flavoring. You don't know what's in it. Natural beef or chicken flavoring and seasoning. Just the word seasoning, we really maybe don't know. So if any of those things are listed, preservatives, again, you want to just do as little as possible. All right, so let's go to rule number 2 when you're reading food labels. You want to look at the ingredients, and I didn't mention this one, but you want to avoid the bad fats like trans fats. If it says trans fats, you just want to stay away from those. High fructose corn syrup, you probably want to stay away from. Just don't do it. And then no sugar in the first 3 ingredients. You're probably it's hard to get away from the sugar. But if you can just say, okay, I'm not going to eat it if it's in those first 3 ingredients, at least you're making a better choice. So that's a pretty good way to do it. And then again, choose whole grains. It should say whole grain in the ingredient list. 100% whole grain on the front if it's going to say it. Okay. Now we want to look at this nutrition facts table. Now this one gets a little bit confusing. So we'll go through it. And here's the things that we want to talk about. The serving size on this label, it's a half a cup. And then we have the servings per container. So this container would have 4. You might eat all 4 at once, but they're measuring it at a half a cup, okay? Then we have calories per serving, which is 90. Calories from fat, which is 30. And then the total fat. Total fat includes the saturated fat. And trans fat, unsaturated fats, and cholesterol. Yeah, it has all of those listed there. And then we have sodium. And then we have the total carbohydrates and sugars. That includes added sugars in and what naturally is there. And then protein. And then fiber, vitamin A, vitamin C, calcium, and iron. And then on some of them you'll see this box down here. We'll talk about that one more in a little bit, what that one's meaning. All right. Do you understand all those?
What's a trans fat?
Trans fat,
It's not listed on
in order to get a trans fat is typically what you find in margarine.